Campaign has been busy in Georgia court system this weekend. Several county elections offices opened yesterday and today to continue collecting absentee ballots, a move that Republicans assert violates the law. Atlanta News First reporter Brittany Ford is live now at the state capitol. And Brittany, this is not the first lawsuit that's been filed on this issue, right?
But Joy, no, and this lawsuit actually argues that voters should not have been able to drop off their ballots after early voting ended on Friday. The Trump campaign now taking the issue up with the higher courts. This 21-page federal and state lawsuit by the Trump campaign is the latest move from Republicans challenging Georgia's election procedures.
The Republican National Committee and Team Trump, we filed litigation.
Trump campaign press secretary Karoline Leavitt addressed the filings at an event in Atlanta Saturday.
We learned that in 4 counties, including Fulton County, Democrat election officials were 1, trying to process ballots after the deadline last night, 2, trying to open additional drop boxes that were not predetermined prior.
A judge ruled against the first round of litigation, citing absentee ballots can be collected until polls close on Election Day, but did restrict the option for drop boxes. Gabriel Sterling, Chief Operating Officer for the Georgia Secretary of State, responded to claims on Twitter yesterday, saying, "To be clear, no election laws were broken in Georgia today. The law clearly states that government buildings can be used to receive absentee ballots. A judge said so this morning." Monitors, observers, and SOS investigators were all in Fulton locations. The Trump campaign says they plan to fight the issue at the state and federal level.
We want everyone in Georgia to remain diligent.
Now, the Secretary of State's office is expected to address these pending lawsuits at a press conference scheduled for tomorrow morning. Reporting live in Atlanta, Brittany Ford, Atlanta News First.